Started. My name's Rob. I organize I do the IPO. We've been doing events in Silicon Valley for a number of years, and we're starting to do events in San Francisco, just to be geographically desirable to those of you that live in San Francisco. Who lives in San Francisco? Well, this is geographically desirable. The reason being is, for some reason, people in San Francisco don't leave San Francisco. I don't know what the reason is. There's must be some reason, but can't get around it. So that's why we're doing events in San Francisco, and we have to schlep all our stuff up from the peninsula. But we do events from San Jose to San Francisco, and again, we try to accommodate people. So if you see an event in San Francisco, or a speaker that you want to see, and you live in the valley, it's going to go down the valley eventually. If you see an event down the valley, and maybe it's too far for you to go, it'll come up to San Francisco naturally. So keep that in mind. So we have a lot of events on the calendar. I just like to highlight a few that are coming up. We have the World Future Conference 2015, which is Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week. It's actually sponsored by one of our partners that we're helping promote. Our members get 15% off. That's an exciting event. Next Tuesday at the IBM Innovation Center in Foster City, we have an event called How to Build a Successful Startup with Little or No Money. So who here has little or no money? Well, anyway, that event's for you, so check that out. That's Steve Hoffman, he's a really funny guy, the founder of Founderspace. Thursday next week, we have an event called How to Raise Early Stage Financing. That's at Perkins Coie, Palo Alto, it's an esteemed law firm. So check that out. So we have lots of events on the calendar. Check out all the details on our site, IPO.com. So we were launched officially February 1st, 2010. At that time, we had 0 members and 0 events on the calendar. So we now have about 25,000 members among all our meetup groups in the Bay Area. We completed 1,317 events, or promoted, or completed that many events. I don't know who's counting, because I'm not counting it, it's on our meetup site. So somebody's counting. No one's counting the amount of pizzas that have been consumed at our events. It's definitely quite a bit, and I'm grateful that Costco's down the street. We're adding tacos to just be a little more diversified. So our mission is to promote entrepreneurship, support entrepreneurs, build community, and provide value in the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem. And I'm not bragging or anything, but at this point, we're probably the most active startup event organization in the Bay Area, bar none. Not bragging, I'm just saying. But we produce content that's actionable, relevant, and practical. And we believe in community, which requires frequent interactions. We have a lot of events on the calendar. Even if you got off the plane today, like Dilla from West Virginia, she just got off the plane for all her luggage. So in the course of a week or two, she'll go to events and she'll meet lots of people and build a community. And that's part of our objective. Because we have a lot of events on the calendar, you'll get a lot of announcements and reminders. So that's part of the deal, so get used to it. But actually, if it's overwhelming to change your settings so you don't get all the emails, it's not necessarily to send me an email that says, stop sending me all these emails, blankly. I get a few of those. No one is really to do that. But we also believe in value because there are a lot of organizations in San Francisco and in Silicon Valley holding events. Some of these events are good, some are not so good, some provide value, some might be overpriced. But it's important to us that we provide value to each and every one of our events. We make sure our events are affordable, and we still have a lot of free events on our calendar. So we have a lot of partners that help us do what we do. Law firms, venture capital firms, angel investor groups, incubators, accelerators, colleges, universities, lots of other players in the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem. Tonight, we're grateful to Parasoma for hosting us. It's a beautiful venue. By the way, does anyone know that this is near a very famous venue nearby? Well, Twitter's around the corner. There'll also be a Oasis nightclub. That's kind of a famous nightclub. I used to go there back in the day. But anyway, I want to have Daniel from Parasoma come up and say a few words. Well, let's hear for Daniel.
Thanks, guys. So I just want to give a brief little introduction to Parasoma. We are a community space where ideas meet execution. We're one of the first co-working spaces here in San Francisco. We also have full events and classes calendar trying to foster that sense of community here. One event I'd like to plug coming up, we have ping pong charity fundraiser tournament. Ping pong tournament, I should say. But I'll just keep it brief. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight, and hope to see you guys again soon. Thank you.
Our supporters is Alina from TimeJoy. Who here has a problem with time management? Wait, she'll help you out. Let's hear it for Alina.
Thank you, Rob. Has any of you ever been late to a meeting? Yes? You're all good, right? Has you ever been on time to the meeting but been waiting for other people who are constantly? Okay, so that's where TimeJoy comes. It's a combination between smart calendar and a personal assistant. So it grabs your meetings from the calendar, helps you to kind of analyze them and plan your route in the best way. Like kind of builds an itinerary. Maybe in some days it's easier for you to take an Uber and go to meetings, using that. Maybe it's cheaper, but otherwise, if you're driving, parking is also a problem. So we recently integrated with Park Quiz, which allows you to reserve and prepay the parking, so it's there waiting for you. If you take Uber, we track all the Ubers around. We know when your next meeting is coming up, so we'll tell you now is the time to call in. Do you want us to call in for you? It sends you smart notifications. It's designed for mobile professionals. We're constantly on the move. We're all overcommitted and overscheduled. So it sends smart notifications, depending where you are, when actually you need to leave. Provides you insights on the meeting partners you're about to meet, their LinkedIn, latest tweets, blog posts, things like that. And sends ETAs if you're driving, so you don't have to text and drive. So just think about it as a productivity app for busy professionals. It's in the App Store right now, so you're welcome to try it on. Thank you.
Okay, TechFuturesGroup is one of our long-term partners. They help us put on successful events. Today, they're actually helping us provide, they're providing a speaker for us tonight, which is awesome. Most importantly, they provided the tacos. So let's hear it for Jerry.
Thank you. I'm Jerry Bargnano. I'm director of TechFuturesGroup. TechFuturesGroup is a nonprofit that provides free business advice to tech companies located in the Greater Bay Area. Our services are free to you. We take no equity. We accept no cash. We're funded by the SBA, and there is an application process. It's www.techfuturesgroup.org. If you apply there and get accepted, about 1 in 3, 1 in 4 get accepted. You'll be assigned to an EIR. We're very experienced entrepreneurs. Some are VCs in their own right. They've typically had a couple good exits. They know a lot of folks in the Valley and elsewhere, and they are your prime advisor. And then surrounding them and supporting them, we have other specialty advisors. We have patent attorneys that help answer patent questions and issues with copyrights and so forth. We also have folks who do things like business modeling, so they'll develop an Excel spreadsheet for you so you know what levers you can move in your business to make it go forward. And also it's important to have that when you go talk to a VC. We do help people perfect their VC pitches. And then we have someone who does biomedical manufacturing and other manufacturing issues. And then Chuck Eason is one of our specialty advisors, and he helps with grants. Mostly SBIR, but we've also been very successful with other grants, and they can range in size from $150,000 to $1.5 million, $2 million. So it's a great way of raising money without dilution. Again, my recommendation, my appeal is for you to check out TechFuturesGroup. There is a flyer in front. You can pick one up on your way out. Thanks.
Jerry said two key words: free, accepts no cash. Who likes that? That's a great policy. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker. He's a leader in his field. He's charismatic, funny, very dynamic. And he came all the way from Solano County for this event. So if you're not in this area, Solano County is really far. So let's hear it for Chucky.
Hey, you said people don't leave San Francisco, so I had to come to San Francisco. Well, good evening. I'm Chuck Eason, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to share with you a little bit tonight about a program where you can get up to $1 million without giving up any equity and incurring debt for your business. How many of you would be interested in that? Yeah. This is a program I've been a big fan of for quite a while, and this will give you a little overview and see if it's a fit for what you're doing. My background too, I've been a Small Business Development Center Director for about 15, almost 18 years actually, between 3 different colleges, and it's part of our Small Business Development Center is funded through the SBA, as Jerry mentioned. And when I was director, we got a lot of clients who were coming in, and of course everybody comes in, they're looking for money, and they always would ask, who are the grants available for you? And in general, we always told people, no, if you're a for-profit business, there's no grants, and that was kind of the general answer. In general, if you're not a nonprofit, like a 501c3 or something that make you eligible for going after traditional grants through foundations and other things, it's very tough to get funding through a grant. You don't have to pay back. But tonight, the program I'm going to share with you, the Small Business Innovation Research and the Small Business Technology Transfer Program, is one of the exceptions to that rule. It's money that you can get either as a contract or a grant from the government that you do not have to pay back. So that's one of the neat things about the program. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and kind of how I came involved with SBIR. It's been almost 20 years now, I guess. I started out my career as an aerospace engineer down in Southern California. Worked for TRW in the ballistic missile program. And I was laid off in the early 90s after we won the Cold War. We didn't need any more nuclear missile systems. So a lot of us down in Southern California found a lot of these engineers on the street without another job. And it was a very difficult time back then. I thought that was kind of the Great Recession in the early 90s at that time. So we did, after we won the Cold War, we just got done fielding a Peacekeeper missile I was working on. We were getting ready to put it on rail cars. I remember we were driving around the country and then raise up and launch. But we canceled that one program, and we had another one for a small ICBM as well. But after that, I went back into kind of my entrepreneurial roots and moved into business for myself for a few years. And then where I worked at Norton Air Force Base, I worked there for TRW with the Air Force folks, they closed the base down. And of course, everything around the base then was kind of a ghost town. The 5 cities around there. It was a really tough time. But they wanted to get things going at the base, so they wanted to do a business incubator there. So I actually wrote the business plan for the incubator and helped them get the first 2 buildings going, and became the incubator manager there for the Inland Empire Business Incubator. Now we still had a lot of laid-off engineers that were hanging out in the area, and our first tenant in the incubator was another bright guy from Caltech, grad, and worked at TRW. And he had just been awarded what's called a Phase 1 grant from the Army, and I'll talk about the different phases here in a minute. So he had basically himself and I think 2 other people, so this is a small team of people, was the first tenant in our incubator. So he moved in, and I hadn't heard about the program before, the SBIR program, but I helped him write his Phase 2 grant while he was in the incubator. And one of the things that I remember was unique about that too, we all had our secret clearances working on the nuclear missile systems, and what he was proposing was actually this software when you shoot down missile lanes, where does the debris fall, so you can calculate a free fly zone. So it had some secret material, classified materials too, so we had to figure out a way to protect that data, and we had to write a section into the Phase 2 grant application, how we're going to do that, and we ended up having to bring this huge safe into the incubator. I remember this huge safe, having to haul that in there one day. But he was successful in getting his Phase 2 grant and became our first graduate out of the incubator. So that was my first exposure to the program. He went on and probably got another dozen or so SBIR awards, and then over the next 10 years or so, he grew his company to 90+ employees and offices around the world. So he used the funding to help launch his company. So that's what I've seen several times over and over again. When I moved up here in 1997, I continued to do some training and counseling to help people go after SBIR funding. And we did another training event up in actually in Napa Valley. We did a 2.5-day training. It was a proposal writing workshop, and then we had a cost proposal, and then we had a half day around finding some folks from UC Berkeley and Davis on tech transfer and that type of thing. But again, we had a couple, I remember, that attended the training. He was at Day Laboratories up in Napa, and PhD there, and he had developed this technology where it's a patch you put on your skin and change the color to detect alcohol levels. And after taking our class, he put together an application for NIH for a phase 1 grant and got a $110,000 grant, and then went on to get his phase 2 award. And then he quit his job, he and his wife, and they launched their company. So I've seen that over several times. A lot of these smaller companies. So that's why I'm kind of a big fan of the program. It allows you basically to get $1 million down the road to demonstrate or prove feasibility of whatever your new technology or innovation might be without having to give up any equity, diluting equity in your company. So that's kind of how I was exposed to him, a little bit about my background. The other thing, after helping people for several years and doing the training, I kind of got the itch to do it myself. So I actually went through the process myself. In 2005, formed a corporation, Optima Development Corporation, and we got an NSF Phase 1 and Phase 2 award. And this is what's called a Small Business Technology Transfer Grant, and I'll explain the difference between those. But our technology, and this kind of actually went back to my days working in aerospace just before I got laid off, back in it was about 1990 time frame. In Southern California, when we were at the time, there was this big wave of appreciation of home prices coming out. I remember people were camping out overnight for model homes and that type of thing. So myself and two other friends at TRW, we thought, well, this is a great time to build a spec house. And so we bought a half-acre lot, and we built a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house. My partner went out and got his contractor license, and we ended up doing a lot of the work ourselves, putting the electrical in and that type of thing. And those of you who have ever built a house, but it took 6 months to build a house. And the problem was between the time we started and finished the house, the first Gulf War broke out, and the whole real estate market just took a dive. And from there on, it seemed like every other house was in foreclosure. And we couldn't sell the house, and my partner actually lost his house in foreclosure, and then he moved into the house we built. And we didn't sell it until like a year later. We ended up selling it for less than it cost us to build it. So started thinking, fast forward about 15 years, as an aerospace engineer, we were kind of doing rapid prototyping when we were assembling missile systems. We'd build them in a missile and take them out and put them in a silo and do it fairly quickly. We thought there's got to be a faster way to build houses so you can get rid of that market risk. So you don't have 6 months to wait for the market to change. So that's where I kind of started thinking about this idea around rapid prototyping for building larger objects. And I started doing some research on the internet, and I came across an article in Australia that was doing what's called large-scale freeform fabrication, which is basically, you're familiar with rapid prototyping where you build things layer by layer, but it's very slow to do that. It takes a long time to build even a small object. So ours is what's called a thick layer approach, where you can take thick layers and build something large, like the size of a house. So I found this article in Australia, and it referenced another researcher at the University of Utah who had developed this technology there and patented it. So I contacted him and said, would you be interested in going after an STTR Phase 1 with the National Science Foundation and apply it for the construction industry? And he was excited about it and got on board, so we put together a proposal and we got our Phase 1 grant. Basically what we were doing was we could take any 3D CAD model and produce objects the size of a house. You can see there's a 3D CAD model of Buddha, and then we built actually 2 20-foot tall Buddhas there. You can see Dr. Thomas standing down there trying to give you the scale of it. It's my co-PI, principal investigator on the project. And those were built out of styrofoam, basically, layers of styrofoam that we kept with a 4-axis water jet. Now, there's not a big market for 25-foot Buddhas. One of them we have is actually all spray painted gold. It's in a temple down in Santa Cruz right now. So our concept was to apply this to the construction industry. So in Phase 1, we actually built a 1/12 scale model of my house up in Green Valley. And then we built a curved staircase, you can see there. We got a CAD model from a staircase manufacturer, Southern Staircase out of Georgia. They do about 1,000 staircases a year. Most of them are straight or L-shaped, but they did a few of the curved staircases, which are much more difficult to do, to construct and build a curved staircase. So we said, send us one of your curved staircases and we'll build it for you as a prototype. And we put it together, we put it in a crate, shipped it out there, flew out there, showed how we could assemble it in like an hour, put together a staircase. So that's what we did in Phase 1, and then in Phase 2 we actually built a full-scale house with our technology out of autoclaved aerated concrete was the material we used. So, one of the things I've learned, when you go through the process, you learn all the little things. I've been doing training and counseling around SBR for many years, but it's actually going through the process that helped me learn, I think, more than I ever did just in my 10 years of working with other clients. So that's a little bit of background about how I became involved in this. So I'll tell you a little bit about the history and the purpose of the SBIR program. First, I'm kind of curious to get a feel for the audience. How many of you, or any of you, been awarded, say, a Phase 1 award? Okay. So I assume there's no Phase 2s in the audience either? Are any of you thinking or are aware of the SBIR program, thinking about applying for it? Okay, good. A few more, yeah, there we go, a few more hands. So you're just aware we're thinking about going after it. Good. All right. So maybe after today, you'll know whether it's maybe a good fit for you and what you're looking to do. So the program itself has been around since the mid-'80s. Congress, what they did, they basically required agencies that had a certain size extramural R&D budget to participate in the program. And I think it was over like $100 million, and then they had to participate. And it's been reauthorized a couple times. It's a real popular program, actually, in Congress. It's been a fairly successful program. It's been reauthorized for another, I think it's another 5 years yet. Or no, through 2017 now. So. Now, the purpose of the program is really to bring in small business into the R&D world, and really is to fund some cutting-edge R&D that has some degree of risk to it. So they're not looking to fund like straightforward engineering work or even software development. It's something that they want to fund that has a degree of risk that you haven't demonstrated feasibility of whatever your new innovation or technology might be. In small business, I think can be more creative and responsive to needs than maybe some of the larger businesses. So I do is to bring in small business and get them more involved in solving some of the problems that government had, some of these government agencies had, and also to commercialize new technologies. So one of the purposes too is to help get across what I call this, kind of chasm of death here. You've probably seen this where on the left we have federally funded research. So you might have basic research going on or fundamental research, and then how do you get from there to commercialization? How do you get across that chasm there? And this is one program that can give you some funding, some initial maybe seed funding to get partway across, maybe, to help you get that across to the commercialization side. If you guys have questions, I can probably answer some of these. We'll have Q&A after I finish up here a little bit too. I just threw this chart in here. I think this is kind of an interesting chart. The data is being a little bit old, but I think some of it's still relevant as far as it shows here employment of scientists and engineers. And for firms under 500, and the SBA defines a small business as anything under 500 employees. For this particular program, to qualify, you have to be a small business under 500. So I imagine most of you qualify under that category. But you see here, 54.8% are small firms, and then we got 45% say large firms. But that's the number of engineers and scientists. But if you look at the funding, it's not proportional to that. So for firms under 500, the blue is a much smaller sliver, 4.3% versus the large firms here at 50%. So I think that's interesting that while there's more people employed as scientists and engineers in small firms, the funding doesn't represent that in here. Another great thing about this program is that even though the government is funding your R&D effort, you still retain worldwide patent rights to what you're developing. So there's a few catches as far as the government has a license that they can use it in certain cases. Like I have here, like a national emergency, they have what they call march-in rights. If they need it for some reason, and then you also fail to commercialize it and develop it, they could potentially take that and have it developed by someone else for their use if there's some need for it. And I haven't seen any problems with the government taking their people's IP. I always get a lot of questions on this, and then it's always a concern around the IP, but I don't think this is really an issue as far as the government wanting to take their IP and sell it to someone else. Now the data itself, we'll talk about the applications. You can mark applications as confidential material that won't be released to anybody. Now any research you develop too. They can't release this information for 4 years after you complete your final projects, whether it's a phase 1 or phase 2, which might be 3 years from now, and then there'll be another 4 years past that. So the program, there's 11 agencies that participate in the program right now. So you've got the Department of Defense, Health and Human Services, NASA, Department of Energy, National Science Foundation, Department of Homeland Security, one of the newer ones, USDA, Department of Commerce, Department of Education, Environmental Protection Agency, and the Department of Transportation are the 11 that are participating. And there's it's actually closer to about almost $3 billion, I think, a year now that are available each year through this program. And you see up here that the top 5 are marked both SBIR and STTR, and I'll explain the difference between those two programs. But those are the top 5 are the larger agencies. They do both of the programs, and I'll explain what the STTR is in a minute. This is a slide kind of showing a breakdown of where that money goes for the R&D. And you see the Department of Defense has kind of a lion's share. They have almost 50% of the pie. NIH has roughly a quarter of the pie, and then that last quarter is all the other agencies, so NSF, and NASA, and EPA, and Department of Commerce, and all those, the smaller agencies. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're looking to go after funding. You want to look at the different agencies, but you don't want to overlook some of the big ones like DoD. Because DoD funds a lot of different stuff. They fund breast cancer research, health-related research, and other things. So you don't want to look just at, say, NIH. You want to look across all these different agencies. You see up here the green and blue. There's 2 types of agencies that participate in the program we call granting agencies and contracting agencies. And the kind of key difference between them, the contracting agencies like the DoD, you see here in blue, or NASA, they have some problem that they're trying to solve. So they propose the problem, and then you propose the solution. I'll show you in a little bit how you can search the different things that they're looking to fund, but typically the contracting agencies, they have very specific problems they're trying to solve. So if it's Department of Defense, they tell you exactly what they want you to do in phase 1, phase 2, and they actually give you the specifications, whether it's, or if it's a solar system or a battery system, they'll tell you, what level of efficiency, what weight, what duration. So they'll give you all the specifications they need to meet whatever that mission is, or problem they're trying to solve. So they're very specific topics, and then you have to come up with a solution. The granting agencies, on the other hand, their topics are more broad, and they, in that case, you propose both the problem and the solution. So you just have to fit her into one of their general categories or subtopics for what that agency is funding. And I'll show you in a little bit how you can search those different topics, and I'll show you maybe some sample topics for the different agencies. So that's kind of the key difference between the granting and contracting agencies. In both cases, it's money you don't have to pay back. It's a little bit different as far as maybe some of the reporting and contracting requirements to the granting agencies are fairly easy to work with as far as what they're looking for reports. And the contracting agencies, you're going to be dealing with the people directly, like in the DoD, that are looking to solve that problem. Who's eligible to participate? So, first of all, you have to be a for-profit business. So, that's the first thing. And you have to be 50% owned or controlled by a U.S. citizen or permanent alien resident. And then with the reauthorization now, they do allow the companies to be owned, VC owned. That's a big issue when they went through the reauthorization a couple of years ago, particularly with NIH. I think was kind of where it was coming out of. So as long as you can have a venture capital fund or hedge fund or private equity funds, as long as they don't have a single investor that has more than 50%, you're still eligible from that standpoint. And then, as I mentioned, the small business. And again, that definition is 500 or fewer employees, which is that's a big number. If you look at the data,